Hello, we are
Eduardo Baena.
and Maria Alejandra Vaquero. We are going to present case number 3, marketing to the bottom of the pyramid.
Index. Introduction.
Summary of the case.
Update data on the topic.
Key concepts on the global economic, political, legal, and regulatory environment.
Answer to question number 1.
Examples in Colombia.
Conclusions.
Bibliography.
Marketing has mainly focused on the higher income products because the middle class associated to it can afford an advancement of technology, and it is easy to create needs for non-basic products on this segment. Saturate markets on everything profit margins have created the need for companies to focus on an explored segment traditional not seen before. What about BOP segment market? Why we know so little about it, and what are the challenges of trying to target this segment?
Summary of the case. BOP stands for bottom of the pyramid. This bottom of the pyramid are 4 billion people who subsist on less than $2 a day, 3/4 of the population of the world. These people are called the aspirational poor, and they represent $14 trillion in purchasing power, more than Germany, UK, Italy, France, and Japan together. Demographically, it is young and growing at 6% a year or more. Traditionally, the aspirational poor haven't been considered an important segment market. The reasons for that are: first, they can afford most of the products. Second, they do not accept new technologies. Third, they only purchase basic products. And fourth, they have little or no use for products targeted for higher income segment markets.
BOP marketing requires advanced technology alongside infrastructure, not to make cheap products, but to make technological advanced products affordable. BOP marketing requires creative financing, available resources of adequate refinancing, micro-distributors, and budding entrepreneurs. BOP marketing requires effective distribution, how to arrive to the rural markets. BOP marketing requires affordable packaging. Products have to be made available locally and in affordable units.
BOP marketing creates health benefits. It improves personal hygiene for people with little access to media.
Updated data on the topic. Learning from the pioneers. Marketing innovative devices for the BOP. Over the last 2 decades, a range of affordable devices and equipment have been created to provide 4 billion people at the base of the pyramid with life-changing benefits. Yet progress in marketing these devices has been frustratingly slow as marketeers struggle to convince BOP families that future benefits, cost saving, or increased income justify their investments. The Marketing Innovative Devices for the Base of the Pyramid project analyzed 15 pioneer organizations selling life-changing devices to low-income people around the world. Leaders from 15 organizations featuring the study, their CEOs, presidents, marketing directors, or founders validated 10 key lessons on how to design an appropriate value propositions, create effective marketing strategies, organize an efficient sales force, and define the right level of overhead. Some of these findings are: first, a fund to finance the initial working capital of small local entrepreneurs selling innovative devices, providing a few $1,000s for each enterprise. Second, a central buying group focused on beneficial devices to serve the needs of local distributors. And third, a platform, either public or private, for sharing lessons learned and best practices among practitioners, vouched by a benchmark of existing models to find out which really work. Four A's and 5 D's. In marketing, everybody knows about the 4 B's. But what happens when talking about the specific BOP market that is still quite fresh in terms of academic research? Researchers have found 2 approaches in the field of marketing that are quite interesting, among other things because they do not highlight the same problematics. The first one, called the 4 A's, comes a paper written by C.K. Prahalad for the Journal of Product Innovation Management. His focus is on the BOP as a source for breakthrough innovation. The 4 A's are: awareness of the product and service. Basically, it comes down to making sure that everyone there understands that it's available and know how to use it. The second one is access. These markets can be difficult to access and they should be overcome. The third, the supply should be affordable for the local people's wallet. Fourth and last, what is produced should be available. The second approach is called the 5Ds and was proposed by Nidhi Band from Emerging Futures Lab. She proposes that the first thing that should be taken into account is development. By this, she implies that selling any kind of product or service should have an immediate value for the BOP consumers. Then comes design, the underlying idea being that producing the same supply but lowering the price will definitely not be sufficient. BOP customers are not as trapped in Western-style consumerism as we are, and this makes a huge challenge in terms of adapting and redesigning the supply. Her point on distribution is quite close from the one in Prahalad on accessibility and availability. Demand is about human-centered analysis. How does a company manage its advertisement and communication in order to resonate with the BOP consumer? Her last point on dignity is extremely interesting and can be found in the Design for All approach. In creating a dedicated supply, companies should ensure that it doesn't stigmatize the BOP consumer. Put differently, the product or service cannot be perceived as a design and produced for the poor. BOP consumers are like any other ones on this point and do not want to have something that will highlight their current economical situation. It is quite interesting to see that these two analyses both underline the complexity of the BOP consumer and the difficulty to address them. Marketing managers from Western countries will really have to change their mindset and develop new sets of tools if they want to work efficiently, but it also seems that there is much left to be done in order to fully understand BOP question.
More updates. A failed promise. According to The Guardian, if there's a fortune to be made of the BOP, it remains elusive. Mark Milstein. The notion was oversold. Other companies are making profits but not enough to matter to the organization. The difficulty, getting the scale. That doesn't mean that companies should leave the task of fighting profit to the governments or aid organizations. Companies can bring unique value to the poor. BOP in Latin America. The BOP market in the Latin America and the Caribbean is made up of households whose members are up to 10, purchasing power parity per capita per day, and it accounts for about 70% of the region's population. It presents about 10% of the regional economy. Marketing opportunities in the BOP in the region are far more promising than ever before.
In Anil Karnani's article, The Mirage of Marketing to the Bottom of the Pyramid, How the Private Sector Can Alleviate Poverty, the author states that what Prahalad argues on his fortune at the bottom of the pyramid article is a proposition indeed too good to be true. Prahalad argues that selling to the poor can simultaneously be profitable and eradicate poverty. This is, of course, a very appealing proposition and has drawn much attention from senior managers, large companies, and business schools. The BOP proposition is seductively appealing, but it is riddled with fallacies. There is little glory or fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. Unfortunately, it is almost all a mirage. This article argues that the BOP proposition is both logically flawed and inconsistent with the evidence. This analysis has serious implications for both company strategies and public policy. This article proposes an alternative perspective on how the private sector can help alleviate poverty. Rather than viewing the poor primarily as consumers, an alternative approach is to focus on the poor as producers and to emphasize buying from the poor. The only way to alleviate poverty is to raise the real income of the poor. The author concludes that private companies should try to market to the poor. However, the profit opportunities are modest at best, and he suggests a cautious approach. Large companies that require scale economies should be even more hesitant. The best opportunities exist when the firm reduces price significantly by innovatively changing the price-quality trade-off in a manner acceptable to the poor. The private sector can help alleviate poverty by focusing on the poor as producers. One way to do this is to make markets more efficient such that the poor capture more of the value of their outputs. Certainly, the best way for private firms to help eradicate poverty is to invest in upgrading the skills and productivity of the poor and to help create more employment opportunities opportunities for them. This is the win-win solution. This is the real fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. Global environment: political, economic, legal, and regulatory. Exchange controls effect on foreign business. These regulations can cause a collateral damage to international trade, which means even more barriers to reach BOP segments. On the other side, if these controls are minimum or none, one can think about reaching this kind of segment easily. Controls can mean easier or harder ways to reach a BOP segment, and the marketer needs to take them into account when analyzing the possibility to reach the bottom of the pyramid. Economic risks. The possibility of entering into a new market has some characteristics that need to be assessed before any action. If someone is going to invest on a certain country, he or she must be sure that the macroeconomic environment is reliable and that its economy is strong. In terms of cost, weaker economies cause more expenses to companies, and one must try to reduce as much as possible of the cost structure, especially if the target is a BOP segment, in which costs are significantly higher if the marketeer does not understand the economies of scale. These are vital for a sustainable strategy at the bottom of the pyramid. Country risk is something to keep in mind while choosing the BOP segment. Both export transactions and direct investments are two vital elements to take into account. Regulatory, legal, economic, and political frameworks are measured by many insurance companies with real data of every country in the world. This data is helpful to analyze the hostility or facility to target a new segment, especially at the bottom of the pyramid. Since major difficulties must be overcome to reach the poor, it could be even harder if there's an uncontrollable situation, like a war, a weak economy, or extensive regulations to distribute products in certain countries.
Question number 1. Guideline to target the BOP segment.
Market research about main statistics of the aspiration poor.
First of all, we will have to do a market research about the main statistics of the aspirational poor of the region that we are trying to reach. How many people are they? What is their purchasing power parity per capita per day? How much of the economy they represent and how difficult it is to reach them in terms of distribution.
Risk assessment of the key elements: political, economical, legal, and regulatory environment.
When entering into a foreign market, there are many different variables unknown to the marketeer. Political stability, strong or weak economies, tough regulatory system, laws that can ease or complicate the entrance to a foreign country. All of this needs to be taken into account.
Design a service or product that offers value to the potential customers. Otherwise, they won't buy it. Not to make cheap product, but to adjust technology to their needs in affordable way.
They need to see the product or service as a beneficial investment. Since they have a low income, they will not spend on something that they do not see as strictly necessary or valuable for their lives.
Creative financial plan. Involvement of the community into the distribution of the products to reduce costs.
Hand out small quantities or units of the product instead of the large one so that it can be easier for them to purchase and also to offer a small price for it. Do not overrate their purchase power. Effectively broadcast this information to the segment, finding a low-cost, massive way so that they can easily know about the product. Voice to voice, involvement of the community, local promotion.
Examples in Colombia. Empresas Públicas de Medellín analyze the payment history of its 1.7 million consumers and offers credit to those with a track record of paying on time. Thanks to this ingenious way of establishing credit histories by using clients' until payments records, EPM customers can afford to buy household appliances while EPM expands its presence in underserved markets. Credifamilia is a creative partnership between a financial institute and a home builders in Colombia that analyze the creditworthiness of low-income and self-employed market with little credit history and offers them mortgages to buy new and affordable homes. EAFIT is a private Colombian university located in Medellin. EAFIT, this case, describes a financial system created by Argus. Under this system, load of private to people who do not otherwise have access to banking system. Enable sections 1, 2, and 3 out of 6 accredit of the satisfaction of the population in Colombia, which corresponds with the base of the payment. Construya brings together their key stakeholders, load beneficiaries, Argos commercial networks, Construya Networks, which is made up of 200 sales points, and Argos financial partners.
Conclusions. Although poverty has always been an issue concerning government policies, it's also a responsibility for private companies to help improve people's life quality all over the world, not just for the sake of reducing taxes, but to actually help humanity. Take into account the global and local environment, since it's fully significant to the process of international marketing to the bottom of the pyramid segments. The BOP strategy must not be based on making cheap products. That's not the point of this case. A company must be creative when thinking about reducing costs in order to offer the best product possible, technologically advanced and fit for use for the aspirational pool. Some researchers have concluded that it's impossible for companies to be profitable when targeting a BOP segment, but that must not stop the private sector to do so. A lot of cases have been successful on achieving a BOP strategy. As an example, we have Unilever Casa Bahia, which means there is a way to be sustainable while helping the most unfavored people. Maybe not in a very rich way, but they can be sustainable if they try hard. Finally, this is a list of the bibliography used for this case.
Thank you.